I've been a shooter and an outdoor person literally since I first started walking. My dad was kind enough to take me out and teach me how to shoot. We started with a little 22 rifle that was given to him when he was 14 years old. And he often took me hunting with him. Sometimes I acted as a bird dog rather than a hunter. But by the time I was 8 or 9, I was fairly proficient with a 22 rifle because of the mentorship that I had on the part of my father. And I'll be eternally grateful for the time that he spent with me shooting and hunting and for that matter, fishing. I can't think of anything that relieves stress more for me, even today, than taking a 22 rifle out and just plinking. No formal targets or just some good plinking. And in that light, several years ago, and when I started doing the same thing for my boys as my dad did for me, and taking them out shooting and getting them 22 rifles and teaching them the basics of safety with them, and then the fun that you can have shooting. With that in mind, I developed a few fun little things to do when we were out shooting. Now, I've been a father for over 50 years now. And I was a hunter education, a hunter safety instructor for most of those years. For about 20 of those years, I was a firearms instructor in law enforcement. So I have a little background in it. But getting back to this fun thing, one of my favorite things that I did over the years, I built for better terminology, I'll call it a target dispenser. And it is a simple little thing that you can build with scrap wood for the most part. And you buy yourself a few clay pigeons. It sets up easy. And one of the neat things is it cleans up its own mess. So with that in mind, I'm going to show you how to build a little clay target dispenser that makes shooting a 22 handgun or rifle just a little bit more fun, and gives you an opportunity to spend a little time with a young person and stress those safety rules while you're doing it. So let's get started. Let's start with the material list. Now this is can be adjusted the way you need it, using scrap out of your scrap bin in your shop, probably the best way. But let's read through it. You don't need much. You need a couple of 2x2s that are cut to 4 foot in length. You need a couple of pieces of 2x2 that are cut to 6 3/8 inches. You need a piece of scrap that's cut to 6 3/8 by 1 foot. You need some screws, and you need one piece of scrap anything, particle wood, plywood, whatever you've got laying around. Cut it in a circle that's 10 1/4 inches. Ultimately, our finished product will look like this. Each one of the clay pigeons is placed into the slots in the back of it, and as you shoot them, the pieces fall down into a 5-gallon bucket, making for very, very easy cleanup. First, I cut the 2x2s to length, and I just use my miter saw for that. I measure them out 4 foot each direction, so they're 4 foot each, and just cut them off. And next I have to dado out a notch in each one of these 2x2s for 16 inches down on it. Is all the farther you have to do it. I use a 3/4 inch router bit on my router table to do that, and then cheat it a little bit in another pass to make it just a little bit more than 3/4 of an inch wide. Next, I find myself a piece, this in this case is a piece of 3/4 inch scrap plywood that I had laying around, and I lay out a 10 1/4 inch circle on that. Then I simply use my jigsaw to finish cutting out the circle. Okay, I've got all my parts pre-cut for this little project, and there's 2 2x2s that are 4 feet long, and those have been dadoed. And I used a 3/4 inch router bit in here, and then I cheated it just a little bit, so they're a little bit more than 3/4 of an inch. I'll show you why here. So first thing we're going to do is lay this out. We have 2 pieces of scrap, 2x2s, that are cut 6 3/8 inches. Those will be our bottom braces. We have 1 piece of this is particle board. You can use plywood, you can use anything you have around. I built one by using a piece of flooring. So anything you have laying around. This is 12 inches by 6 3/8 inches. And then we have a piece of scrap plywood that's been cut into a 10 1/4 inch circle. Now, when you cut this, you might want to make sure it fits down into the bottom of a 5-gallon bucket, because that's the whole object of this game. So you may have to trim it down or sand it down a little bit to get that. Now, this is our ultimate target. And the idea is that this will have to slide through these dados. So just to make everything sure that it's going to work, what I like to do is place that in there, kind of loose like, square everything up, and I can put one of these 6 3/8 pieces down here, because I know that's what it's going to be, and we'll make that square. Make sure that everything's just, you know, you can use a piece of board to make sure it's even. Then I like to pre-drill these to so it doesn't split out. In addition to all this other stuff, I've set aside a selection of 3-inch. These are just deck screws, just the golden deck screws, to put the bigger pieces together. Okay, we'll put the other brace on after we turn this whole thing over. Now, once again, we're going to make sure that this slides really good, yeah, up and down. We're going to put this piece on here, square it on, and I'm just going to use some drywall screws to put that on there. This will be the shield that kind of hides what's behind it, and you'll see how this works when we get it all together. So I'm just going to put a few drywall screws in here. Okay, and then what we'll do is we'll turn this over, make one more check to make sure that my target slides up and down there and freely, and it's doing good. So then we'll attach this other bottom brace. Now the last step in this process is to put our base on there, and it doesn't have to be exact, but I've marked the center of it, and I kind of judge it both directions. So it's pretty close to the center. And again, drywall screws about all you need here. Okay, so now that stands up, looks pretty good, and our target will slide down in there, and one will be exposed. That's the idea, is to have one of them exposed, and then you can put the others in on top of that, and they'll fall down. We're going to take this out to the range and see how it works. But first, let's take a look at the back side of this. This is the bucket that catches the scrap. The lower target, the visible target, when you shoot it, it breaks and falls into the bucket. And there's 3 hidden targets above that. And as they fall down, it gives you a new target to shoot at. Now we're out at a safe shooting area, maybe around your campground or someplace like that. Set everything up and get ready for some fun shooting. One thing I want to point out is that it often takes more than one shot to break one of these targets. I've put as many as 5 holes in one before it breaks and falls. Obviously, you can modify this in a lot of different ways. You could extend it a little so it hides more targets. You can build 1 or 2 of them together. Anything, use your imagination on this. The most important thing is to use it to help encourage safe handling of firearms and responsible firearm ownership. That's what this is all about. Take a young person out shooting, teach them the basics, be safe, have fun, and above all, make it an affair that you can enjoy. It'll help your marksmanship, it'll help the marksmanship of whoever you introduce to this little fun game, because the more you shoot and the more you get that little competitive edge in there, the better you get. So thanks much for watching. Be sure and subscribe to this YouTube channel. There's much more to come. I have some good ideas, I think, on modifying this and some other fun shooting things that I've used in the past. So go out there, take a 22 out, and do a little healthy plinking. Thanks again. Bye-bye.